When people think about the fall of Rome, they usually picture the same scene: barbarians at the gates, legions collapsing, emperors suffering and dying in their palaces. But in reality, empires are rarely destroyed by outside blows alone. Most of the time, they collapse by rotting from within. And one of the biggest causes of that rot is almost always money. Rome did not fall only because of invasions. It fell because its currency collapsed. And this story is still ongoing for anyone today who thinks they can play with money without consequences. The foundation of Rome's long survival was the denarius. When it was first minted, it was almost pure silver. Everyone trusted it. Soldiers received it as payment for their labor. Merchants were satisfied accepting it. And ordinary people invested their savings in it. The denarius was not just a means of payment. It was the symbol of trust in Rome itself. If Rome was strong, its money was valuable. But this empire was extremely difficult to keep standing. Armies, wars, roads, aqueducts. By the 2nd century AD, Rome's expenses began to exceed its income. Raising taxes would have angered the people. Instead, emperors chose a different method: hollowing out the money. The amount of silver inside the denarius was gradually reduced. During the reign of Augustus, the coin was almost entirely silver. A few generations later, that amount had fallen by half. By the 3rd century, there was practically no silver left in the coin at all. It was bronze coated with a thin layer of silver. The coin looked the same, but it no longer had the same value. The people noticed this. Prices suddenly rose. Things that could once be bought with a small amount of denarii became very hard to afford. Soldiers demanded more pay. Merchants began to refuse accepting the money. People returned to barter, because no one wants to trust a currency that has lost its value. The emperors, however, refused to admit their mistake and tried to fix the situation by minting even more money. But this was not a solution. As trust declined, the currency became even more worthless. It was a complete vicious cycle. This problem exploded during the period known as the crisis of the 3rd century. Over roughly 50 years, everything in Rome began to go wrong. The economy, politics, and security. Emperors were killed within months. Taxes could not be collected, and trade came to a halt. As a last resort, the state tried to force prices to stay fixed. Diocletian set maximum prices and threatened death for those who disobeyed. But this did not work either, because the problem was not prices. It was the money itself. Eventually, the denarius system was abandoned. It was replaced with the solidus, made of pure gold, which carried the Eastern Roman Empire forward for centuries. But for the Western Roman Empire, this reform came too late. Once the economic foundation collapsed, the army collapsed, and so did the state. The lesson is simple. When money breaks, the state breaks with it. This is not a story unique to Rome. Germany lived through the same thing in the 1920s. Zimbabwe experienced it again in the 2000s. Every state that believes printing money is a solution eventually impoverishes its people. Those with debt were relieved, but those who had saved money were destroyed. Those who held real assets survived. Today, the difference is this: the problem is global. Almost the entire world runs on fiat currencies. States survive on debt, and central banks print trillions the moment they see a crisis. That is why the next collapse may not be limited to a single country. What individuals should do is also clear. Inflation is not an accident. It is a choice. Money survives on trust, and when trust disappears, the system collapses. And history has shown again and again, paper money fades away, while real value remains in tangible things, land, skills, and production. The people living in Rome could never have imagined that one day their money would become nearly worthless or even disappear. Germans in 1913 did not take such an idea seriously. The people of Zimbabwe did not believe it at first either. But all of them lived through it. My final words are these: barbarians at the gate may destroy an empire, but the thing that opens that gate is always the hidden decay living inside the state itself.